The photograph on my mantelpiece was taken 2 years ago, a moment of pure, unadulterated pride. It's a picture of me, my son Michael, and his wife, Chloe, cutting a large red ribbon with a pair of oversized scissors. It was the grand opening of Chloe's kitchen, the upscale catering business she had always dreamed of, a dream I had made a reality. I didn't just give them a loan. I liquidated a portion of my retirement portfolio, co-signed the lease on a state-of-the-art commercial kitchen, and leveraged my own business contacts to secure her first major contracts. I was more than a father-in-law. I was a silent partner, the invisible foundation upon which their new, successful life was being built. So, when Michael called me on Tuesday afternoon, excitement buzzing in his voice, I was happy to hear it. He and Chloe were hosting a very important dinner party on Saturday night. "It's a huge deal, Dad," he said, his voice a little strained. "We're hosting Jonathan Vance." "The Jonathan Vance." "He's looking to invest in a few local businesses, and Chloe's kitchen is at the top of his list. This could change everything for us." I felt a familiar surge of pride. This was exactly the kind of opportunity one had hoped my investment would create for them, a chance to ascend to the next level of success and security. But then, the tone of the conversation shifted. Michael's confident excitement was replaced by a nervous, awkward hesitation. He cleared his throat, and the pause that followed was just a fraction of a second too long. "So, Dad," he began, the words fumbling and uncertain. "About Saturday. We were thinking, because this is such a high-stakes, formal kind of thing, and you know, Jonathan Vance is a bit particular. It's really more of a work event than a family thing." I listened, a cold, familiar dread beginning to form in the pit of my stomach. I knew where this was going. "We were thinking it might be better, you know, a little less pressure on everyone," he continued, the words now rushing out in a torrent of cowardly justification. "If you just came for dessert. Maybe around 9. After the main dinner is over. That way you can still be part of the celebration, but we can keep the business part of the evening separate." The invitation, if it could be called that, hung in the air between us, a stark and brutal insult wrapped in the flimsy packaging of a logistical suggestion. The subtext was as clear as the crystal they would be drinking from. "You are not good enough for our important friends. You are a liability. You might embarrass us." A profound, icy silence fell between us. In that moment, I felt the full, crushing weight of their perception of me. I was not the proud, foundational partner in their success. I was the folksy, old-fashioned father, a relic from a simpler world who couldn't be trusted to navigate the sophisticated landscape of their new, ambitious lives. I was the starter course, to be cleared away before the main event. "I see," I said finally, my voice a quiet, cold, and dead thing. I ended the call, the hurt quickly crystallizing into a hard, clear, and diamond-sharp resolve. They wanted me for dessert. They had no idea what I was about to serve them. The anger I felt was not a hot, explosive thing. It was a cold, methodical fury, the kind that clarifies the mind and focuses the will. I spent that evening not in a state of wounded self-pity, but in the quiet, focused solitude of my home office. I bypassed the photo albums and sentimental memories. Instead, I pulled out the thick, leather-bound file labeled Chloe's Kitchen LLC. I had built my own construction business from the ground up on a simple principle: you are only as strong as your foundation. It was a lesson my son and his wife had apparently forgotten, and I was about to give them a remedial course. I spread the documents across my large oak desk, the legal papers a stark, black and white accounting of the truth. My investment was not a simple gift or a casual loan. It was a meticulously structured business deal. I remembered the months I had spent mentoring Chloe, not just signing checks. I had taught her how to read a balance sheet, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to manage payroll. I had sat with her and her lawyer, structuring the partnership agreement, a document that she had likely filed away and forgotten about, a boring detail in the exciting story of her own burgeoning success. The key clause was on page 12, section 4. It stipulated that as the majority shareholder and the sole financial guarantor on all business loans and leases, I retained the right to dissolve the partnership and withdraw all financial backing if I had reason to believe the business was being managed in a way that was detrimental to my initial investment. They had made it abundantly clear that my foundational role, my partnership, was not only unappreciated but was now a source of their social embarrassment. In my mind, that constituted a profound and fundamental mismanagement of our relationship, which was the very bedrock of the business. I called my old friend and former lawyer, Arthur, and laid out the situation. He listened to the whole story, from the dessert invitation to the clause on page 12. "George, my friend," he said, his voice a low, cautious rumble, "you have every legal right to do this. The contract is ironclad. But you have to understand what you're doing. This isn't a business move, it's a tactical nuke. You will be blowing up their lives. There is no coming back from this. Are you absolutely certain this is a price you're willing to pay for a dinner invitation?" His question was a necessary one, a final check on my own conscience. But my resolve did not waver. "This isn't about a dinner invitation, Arthur," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "It's about respect. It's about the foundation. They think the beautiful house they've built can stand without the bedrock it was built upon. They are wrong. They have treated my contribution, and by extension me, as something that can be conveniently hidden away when the important guests arrive. I am about to teach them that the foundation is the only thing that is truly indispensable." The next morning, the city was bathed in a bright, unforgiving autumn light, the air crisp and cold. It felt like a day for clarity, for decisive action. I bypassed my usual breakfast routine and drove downtown, my movements calm and deliberate. My first stop was not my son's house, nor was it Chloe's chic, downtown catering kitchen. It was the headquarters of the commercial bank that held all the loans for their business, loans that were secured not by Chloe's talent or Michael's ambition, but by my assets, my credit, my name. I had a long-standing relationship with the bank's vice president, a man named Henderson whom I had dealt with for over 30 years. I was shown into his office immediately. We exchanged pleasantries, and then I got straight to the point. I invoked the guarantor clause in the loan agreements. "Henderson," I said, my tone polite but firm, "due to a fundamental breach of our private partnership agreement, I am officially withdrawing my personal guarantee and all associated collateral from the accounts of Chloe's Kitchen LLC, effective immediately." Henderson's professional smile vanished, replaced by a look of serious concern. He knew exactly what this meant. The consequences, as I had calculated, would be swift and automatic. Without my financial backing, Chloe's Kitchen was a high-risk, unproven entity. The bank's risk management protocols would kick in. Her accounts would be frozen. Her lines of credit would be revoked. The substantial loans for her kitchen equipment and delivery vehicle would be called in, due in full. The business, which had been a rising star just yesterday, would be, for all intents and purposes, financially paralyzed by lunchtime. My next stop was a few blocks away, at the offices of the property management company that owned the building where Chloe's state-of-the-art commercial kitchen was located. The lease, of course, was in my name, with her business listed as the approved subletter. I met with the agent and formally terminated the lease, providing the required 30 days' notice and agreeing to pay the penalty, a small price for the lesson I was about to impart. Her physical infrastructure, the heart of her operation, would be gone by the end of the month. I made one final stop at a coffee shop. I sat by the window, watching the bustling city, and I made a phone call to her primary supplier of organic produce, a farm-to-table cooperative that I had personally introduced her to, vouching for her with the owner, a man I had known for years. I explained that I could no longer personally guarantee his invoices and was revoking my recommendation. In the space of 3 hours, with a few quiet, legal, and completely justifiable actions, I had systematically and comprehensively dismantled the entire business I had so carefully and lovingly built for her. The foundation was gone. Now, we would see how long the house could stand. I returned home to the quiet of my own house, the afternoon sun slanting through the windows. I felt no triumph, no giddy sense of victory. I felt only a cold, somber sense of purpose. I had set the consequences in motion, and now, All I had to do was wait. The quiet in my house was different now. It was not the silence of loneliness. It was the calm in the eye of a storm I had created. I made myself a cup of tea and sat in my favorite armchair, the silence a stark contrast to the chaos that I knew was about to erupt in my son's life. The call came at precisely 3:45. It was Chloe, and her voice was not the confident, dismissive tone of a rising culinary star. It was a high-pitched, frantic shriek of pure, unadulterated panic. "George! What is happening?" she screamed into the phone, her voice cracking. "The bank just froze all of our accounts. They're calling in the loans. My suppliers are canceling my orders. What did you do? This has to be you." Her use of my first name, a subtle but significant shift from the "Dad" she usually used, told me everything I needed to know. The battle lines were drawn. I let her frantic accusations wash over me, and when she finally paused to take a breath, I responded, my voice icy calm. "I am simply responding to the terms of your invitation, Chloe," I said, my words deliberate and precise. "You and Michael made it very clear that my presence was only required for the dessert portion of your evening. So, I have decided to apply the same principle to our business arrangement. You see, I am the foundation, the main course. My money, my credit, my connections. And since you felt you didn't need the main course at your party, I have concluded you no longer need it for your business." There was a sputtering, incredulous silence on the other end of the line, and then I heard my son's voice, now on speakerphone, frantic and pleading. "Dad, you can't be serious. This is Chloe's entire life. It's our livelihood. You'll ruin us. Please, you have to undo this." His panic was a stark contrast to the cool, condescending tone he had used when he had disinvited me from his dinner. He had not cared about my feelings then, only about his own social standing. Now, the only thing he cared about was the money. "Ruin you?" I replied, my voice devoid of any warmth. "I am not the one who is ruining you. You are ruining yourselves. You built your life on a foundation of my hard work and my respect, and then you treated that foundation like it was dirt under your feet. This is not a punishment, Michael. It is a consequence. It is a lesson in the importance of the main course. You too enjoy your dessert." I ended the call, the click of the phone a final, definitive statement. I had taken their abstract, emotional insult and translated it into the only language they seemed to truly understand, the brutal, unforgiving language of finance. The fallout was, as my friend Arthur had predicted, nuclear. The important dinner party, of course, never happened. The news that Chloe's Kitchen, the city's fastest rising catering star, had abruptly and completely imploded spread like wildfire through their social and professional circles. The humiliation was absolute. They had tried to curate a perfect evening to impress an influential investor, and instead, they had become the subjects of speculative, pitying gossip. The perfect image they had so carefully constructed had been shattered into a million pieces. That evening, they appeared on my doorstep. They were not the confident, ambitious power couple I had seen just days before. They were broken, their faces pale and streaked with tears, their designer clothes looking rumpled and out of place. They didn't come with anger or accusations this time. They came with desperation. They stood in my entryway, two chastened children, and they begged me to reverse what I had done, to make the calls, to restore their business, to put their perfect life back together. It was Chloe who finally broke down completely, her sobs echoing in the quiet of my home. In a torrent of tears and confessions, the ugly truth finally came out. The investor, Jonathan Vance, was not just a potential partner, he was a kingmaker, and Chloe was terrified that I, with my simple, unpolished stories and my lack of interest in modern art and corporate jargon, would somehow ruin the sophisticated impression she was trying to make. "I was scared, Dad," she cried, finally calling me Dad again. "I was so scared you would say the wrong thing, that you wouldn't fit in. I was ashamed, and I am so sorry." Michael, for his part, confessed his own weakness. He admitted that he had been so caught up in the pursuit of a certain lifestyle, of a certain status, that he had become blind to the things that truly mattered. He had sacrificed his father's feelings on the altar of his own social anxiety, and he was now seeing the catastrophic consequences of that choice. They were not bad people, I realized. They were just weak, insecure, and had been blinded by an ambition that had outstripped their own character. I listened to their confessions, their apologies, their pleas. And though a part of me felt a flicker of pity, my resolve did not waver. I did not raise my voice. I did not say, "I told you so." I simply told them the truth. "This is not a switch I can flip back on," I said, my voice calm and final. "An apology cannot rebuild a business. This isn't a punishment that ends when you say you're sorry. This is a consequence. You wanted to build a life without acknowledging the foundation. So now, you will learn what it feels like to build one from scratch. You will learn the value of a foundation by having to lay one of your own." In the month that followed, a profound and heavy silence descended between us. Their lives, as they knew them, had been completely upended. Chloe's kitchen was gone, its assets liquidated to pay off a fraction of its debts. I learned, through my sister, that they had been forced to sell their expensive, minimalist house, the one that had been the backdrop for their social climbing. The tangible symbols of their success, the things they had valued more than my own dignity, were being stripped away, one by one. It was a brutal, but necessary, demolition. I spoke with my friend, Arthur, several times during this period. He was my sounding board, my conscience. "Have you gone too far, George?" he asked me one evening, as we sat on my porch watching the sunset. "You've made your point. Are you going to let them completely self-destruct?" His question forced me to confront my own endgame. Was my goal simply to punish them, to watch them suffer as a penance for their disrespect? Or was it to teach them a lesson, a difficult, painful lesson that would ultimately make them better, stronger people? Then, I started to see signs of a change I had not anticipated. Chloe, who had once been the toast of the city's culinary scene, took a humbling job as a line cook in a busy, unglamorous downtown restaurant. Michael sold his luxury SUV and was seen taking the city bus to his office. They had moved into a small, cramped apartment in a less fashionable part of the city. They were not just suffering, they were surviving. They were being forced, for the first time in their comfortable, privileged lives, to build something entirely on their own, without the safety net of my money or my connections. It was then that I decided to extend a tentative olive branch, but on my terms, in my world. I invited them to dinner, not at a fancy restaurant, but at a small, family-owned diner on the outskirts of town, a place my own father had taken me as a boy. It was a place with worn linoleum floors and the simple, honest smell of coffee and fried onions. They arrived looking tired and worn, but there was a new, quiet humility in their eyes, a stark contrast to the arrogant confidence they had once projected. We ate in a mostly comfortable silence, and then I made them an offer. I told them I would not restore their old business. That chapter was closed forever. But I would offer them a new beginning. I would give them a small, personal loan, with a strict repayment plan, to start a new business, a much smaller, more humble venture that they would have to build entirely on their own. "This is not a gift," I told them. "This is an opportunity. An opportunity to prove that you have learned the value of a foundation, by laying one of your own, stone by painful stone." A year has passed since that dinner. The city is now home to a new, small, and well-regarded food truck called The Foundation. It's run by a husband and wife team, Michael and Chloe, who work harder than I have ever seen them work. Their menu is not fancy or pretentious. It is simple, honest, and made with an integrity that has earned them a loyal following. They are not the talk of the town anymore, but they are respected. They are building something real, something that is entirely their own, and they are paying back my loan, on time, every single month. I was their guest of honor on the 1-year anniversary of their opening. They had set up a small table for me on the sidewalk next to their truck. The evening was cool and clear, the city lights twinkling around us. Chloe, her face flushed from the heat of the grill, brought me a plate of food herself. She looked happier, more at peace, than I had ever seen her in her high-end commercial kitchen. Michael stood beside her, his arm around her waist, his eyes full of a quiet, mature pride that had been absent before. Our relationship has been rebuilt, slowly and carefully. It is not the relationship we once had. It is better. It is based not on financial dependence or unstated expectations, but on a hard-won, mutual respect. They no longer see me as an embarrassing relic or an open wallet. They see me as their father, a man who gave them the most difficult, and most valuable, lesson of their lives. They understand that my actions were not born of malice, but of a tough, necessary love. At the end of the evening, as I was preparing to leave, Chloe handed me a small, white pastry box. "We saved the best part for you, Dad," Michael said, his smile genuine and full of a new, profound meaning. I opened it later, when I was back in the quiet of my own home. Inside was a single, perfectly made slice of apple pie, my favorite, a dessert I hadn't been expecting. It was a simple, beautiful, and heartfelt acknowledgement. The main course of our relationship, the foundation of respect, had finally been served. We all pour our foundations for the people we love, our time, our money, our very hearts. But what happens when the people living in the house you built decide you're no longer welcome at their table? What do you do when the respect that should be a given is treated as an optional invitation? Tell me your story in the comments below. Have you ever felt taken for granted by the very people you've given everything to? Your story is a powerful reminder that sometimes, the most loving thing a parent can do is to remind their children what it feels like to stand on their own 2 feet. If this story resonated with you, subscribe, and share it with anyone who knows the true value of a foundation.